I feel like sometimes I get so passionate about it and so passionate about teaching it that a lot of times in our mind we don't overcomplicate the sport. And it's not an easy sport to begin with, right? I mean, your left hand's doing something different than your right hand, and it's training your muscles, and that's the stuff that we're going to go over. So yesterday, Drew came by yesterday morning and stopped in and helped me with my seminar, and hopefully he will for the rest of the NFR. I know.
I think I will because I won last night.
Yeah.
So I might keep your answer.
So I'm going to say the more rounds he wins, the less popular I will become. He'll probably start signing autographs in lots of locations. So I better use him when I can. Getting back to the teaching of it. The one thing that I really try to push home is balance, core balance. And again, Drew actually threw some things in there yesterday, but I can watch somebody rope the dummy one or two times and pretty well tell you exactly where you're having your problems horseback, just by what you're doing on the ground. Because again, what we're out here trying to accomplish is the muscle memory. This right here, this muscle is training the rest of those muscles what to do. And so if you're out of balance on the ground and you're roping the dummy out of balance and you're not square to your target, and your left hand's not in place, then that becomes a muscle memory. And if we don't pay attention to what we're doing on our groundwork, then that's what sneaks up and bites us whenever we get in the saddle, to the point to where that habit is going to be so difficult to break, because now your balance completely changes, okay? So what we're going to do this morning, especially for all my headers, is talk to you a little bit about core balance on your groundwork, and in that way you transfer that straight into your saddle and your horse, okay? Drew, I'm going to break it down from A to Z. One, where he's roping from right here, where his position is set up is not behind the steer. Not behind the steer. And I want to comment on that for a second. How many of you in here come from a school that you can't rope sitting flat on your rear end? You've heard that, right? Okay. Here's what I want you to understand. We're not going to be sitting flat on our rear end when we're roping as a header. What we're doing is we're opening up. We're opening up and squaring up to our target. So 30 years ago, we were taught to get up and get to the front of our saddle, and what that did is we were breaking our horses from the corner of the box to the front of the chute. So we were actually running kind of in behind the steers like a calf roper does. Okay? So it made sense to get forward right there and get up. Now we're staying in our own lane as a header. Basically, I want y'all to imagine this. It's just like being in the box. The header's in the left-hand lane, the steer's in the middle lane, and I'm in the right-hand lane as a heater. So his job is to stay in his lane, not to get in the steer's lane. By doing that, instead of standing up and getting forward right here, he's got to open up and square up to his target. When you're practicing that with your groundwork, you've got to keep your core balance in place. So as he steps up there and he goes to swing his rope, we talked about this yesterday, he may start out with his left foot forward right here, but he's got his tip loaded up outside of the right horn, so he's already ready. His shoulders are square to that steer's head. They're not square to his horse's head. So right there, he is set and ready to catch. Go ahead and stick it on, Drew. Now, when he roped right there, does everybody see his posture? When he roped, he didn't bow out. He stayed core balance, both hands, extended his arms, his shoulders into his delivery, and when he pulled his slack, he still has his core balance here. How many of you have a hard time getting your horses to rate on slower steers? It's the adrenaline rush is the fast steer, isn't it? And I want to break the fast steers down to the slow steers for you right fast, because this question was asked to me every day of every seminar last year. My horse won't rate slow steers. I hate roping slow steers. I like to run the faster steers because it's more fun. And to this day, I don't know how much money I've actually won on fast steers. It's really been on the slower steers. So here's what ends up happening. What he just went through right there is he kept his core balance in place, and his left hand was in place. So if he blows up on a slow steer, he's ready to rope. The first thing that happens on those slow steers is we go to pull. And when we pull, most of the time our tip comes up and our shoulders square back up. Does it agree?
Yeah. That's what happened to me round 2. I didn't get a great start. I pulled on the horse a little bit, which I pulled last night too, but it kind of rocks you back a little bit, and I actually blew my spoke in that round, which was a good thing, because if I'd have probably thrown, I probably would have split the horns because I was roping from back here. So I blew my spoke, got it back, and got to the front of my saddle and roped him. But yeah, I mean, it causes a lot of things. I mean, you can hit your horse in the head, lose your balance, split the horns, blow your spoke like I did. You know, it's just a little bit more of a chance for failure.
You know, with Drew saying that, you see it on a daily basis. The fundamentals of this sport don't change. The fundamentals of them don't change. We can sit there and we can work on our swing, and we can try to perfect our swing to the point to where we have it all set up and caught. It is a what I like to do, and I don't mean to jump in front of you here, Drew, but what I like to do when I'm talking to my students about working on their swing is, once we get this in place and the tip is loaded at the target, we're set to catch. I've already got this steer caught, and what I want everybody in here to understand is, once this is created, this momentum, all I have to do is follow the momentum to the lowest part of the swing. I don't have to force that rope. Does that make sense to everybody? So I see so many students, they go out there and they put so much effort into that delivery, and that's where you accelerate your delivery, that's where your balance gets out, and that's how you end up in your saddle. You get stuck right here in your delivery on your horse. And when you do that, that's where we split the horns. Your tip is still back here. You accelerate that delivery, your hand pushes forward, and it leaves your tip back like that. If you slow down, your tip comes around and your delivery stays open. And when I'm talking about slowing down, I'm not talking about going from 20 miles an hour in your swing to 10 miles an hour in your delivery. You can, but I'm talking about going from 20 miles an hour to 19 in your delivery. Okay? You have to let your tip catch up and go on. So I'll let you get back over there and show everybody.
Well, one thing I was going to add to that, and this might be a little bit different way to look at it. This way I've always looked at it. I have a pretty tight swing, so it's not necessarily a good thing to have a tight swing. So I have to work on bringing my hand back all the time. But I've always thought about it as, I don't slow my hand down. All I do is open my delivery up. And so like I'm swinging tight, so my speed's at, say I'm swinging 20 right here, this is my swing right here, it's tight, and then when I deliver, when I open up, it slows my loop down. And so I'm right here swinging, and all I do is open up. And it comes straight to the target when I deliver. So it just comes straight out of your swing, and your diameter of your swing opens up a little bit more, which in essence slows your swing down to 19 from 20, and opens your loop.
Okay?
That's,
yeah, no, I mean, any way that you can put it out there, that's the whole deal. That again, we hear it in different ways, we see it in different ways, and that's how we learn. What I want to go through, what he just did right there, is he was talking about his swing, and he was talking about opening his delivery up, but when he pulled his slack, did everybody hear that pop, that snap? I see students get caught up in that. I see ropers get caught up in watching somebody like Drew or the guys that are here rope the dummy, and what they're watching is that slack is super fast. And so I start seeing a lot of ropers start speeding their delivery up because he did. Okay? You know what I mean? If you want to be fast or something right there, when you finish and see it go over that left horn, you can rip that slack out. You can rip that slack out, but that's the fast part of the run. So again, another teaching at the training center that I go through a lot is, if you're swinging 20 miles an hour and you deliver 19, you open your delivery up, you can rip the slack 100 miles an hour. But that slack is what makes it look so snappy and sharp right there. Okay? I want to go back. I want to go back to talking about the balance and the core balance. Drew gave some tips yesterday of stuff that he works on to use his core balance. I talked about left foot being forward, especially at my beginner clinics. We put our left foot forward so it makes it a lot easier to square your shoulders to your target. If I see somebody step right foot forward, that's okay, just as long as you rotate and try to square back up to your target. Because we've all, as headers, we've all run that steer that's run off over there, that right fence, and you have to get opened up to catch him over there on that wall. Agreed? Or he steps away. A lot of low-numbered ropers I see get trapped on steers cutting in front of them. How many of you have troubles roping steers that move in front of you? And when you do that, it's because you're trapped. You're already stuck right here, and there's nothing left. So as that steer moves across, your balance is out. If you stay balanced here, it doesn't matter where that steer goes. You can rope him over there, there, but I can still stay loaded to catch him as he's coming into me, okay? So I'm going to let Drew talk to you a little bit right quick about him using his core balance on the ground, which again keeps his feet under his shoulders in the saddle. Go ahead.
Yeah, core balance, I mean, is when he comes down to roping, it comes down to the consistency side of it. It boils down to your horsemanship and how well you stay with your horse, and that's core balance. I do a lot of physical stuff on the outside with exercising for my core balance, but when it comes down to roping the dummy, replicate roping the dummy. Like he's saying, if you can get to the point where you have left foot forward, rope it, set a number. For me, it was 100. You can do whatever you want. If you want to do 10, rope it 10 times in a row like that. Left foot forward, doing it right, shoulders square to the target. When you get feeling comfortable with that, you can step it up a little bit. Pick your left foot up off the ground, however you want. I don't like it coming behind me, so keep it in front of your right foot that's on the ground, because if it comes behind you, you can lean over and cheat the whole point of the drill. So if you put your left foot off the ground in front of your other foot right here, it makes you stand up, stay square and balanced, and just swing right here. Rope the dummy, same way. Same thing, you do that 10 times in a row, make it a little bit more hard, pick up the right foot, rope the dummy, the same concept right here. 10 times in a row. And that's just kind of, those are things that I've done for years that have helped me develop my posture and my core stability of my horse. My horse ducks out, I was talking about it a little bit yesterday. It happens all the time when you're rodeoing full time. You don't get to practice a whole lot, your horse is going to duck or fade, so you're going to end up looking this way, the steer's going that way. But all you need to do is, like, my horse is running over here to those machines, the steer's over here going to the right, and my keeper missed the haze ball. And then I got to square my shoulders to my target, pushing my horse back to him all at the same time, and roping over there. So these drills are great for keeping your balance with your horse, whether your horse is looking off this way or off to the left, your horse is fading because he knows what's coming. The steer's running off to the right. As long as you have your core balance, with the drills we just showed you, what Krece has been talking about, and if you square your shoulders to your target, then you don't have to change anything. You just got to keep riding your horse a little bit, pushing him to him, and all you do is it's the same delivery as if you were standing straight up, squared up the target, because your shoulders are squared to him.
It's what he just went through. Did everybody see that everything that he did was just under control? It wasn't trying to make something happen. He was just trying to create the momentum and guide that tip to the target. He wasn't forcing anything. But in every aspect of that, what we're trying to get to you is, I've never been to a roping yet unless it's one of those goat ropings at the U.S. Finals, where you do run out of the box on your own 2 feet. It's always been on the back of a horse. And so we talk about, and if you've been around this long enough, you'll hear it. You catch with your right hand, you win with your left hand. It's left hand and left foot. So remember that. If I don't keep my balance in place and ride my horse consistent, then there's no way that I can be consistent with this right here. There's no way that I can be consistent with this. And that's where we start beating our heads up, right? When we go to the practice pen, you go out there and you have that practice, and you might run 10 steers that day and catch 9 out of 10, go home and feel great about yourself because you caught. And then the next day we come back to the practice pen, and we might catch 3 out of 10, and now you're starting to doubt yourself, right? And so we hit that wall, and when we hit that wall, we start trying harder. And most of the time when we try harder, we're recreating that bad habit because we didn't put the consistency into one thing. And that was using my core balance to ride my horse to where this becomes easy, okay? That you have to put it in order. I'm a big fan of pushing steps. The header's #1 job is to, what's your first job as a header? You got to score. You know, that's great. But you've got to score. If you don't score, it's just like he talked about. First round, second round. Second round. He didn't score as good as he wanted to. He pulled it out there and he blew a spoke. So I like to talk about it because it's funny. I mean, we go to the George Strait Open every year, and it's amazing how one person can dominate that roping out of 600 teams. 600 teams. But if you sit back and watch and look at all the years past, in my opinion, everybody there ropes great. it seems to be the header that scores the best wins the most. And that's usually anyone.
Yeah, and they don't even get out the best every time. They just get a consistent start every time. So it's like, and it's not like a 2 foot off the barrier. They're in the barrier every time, but it's just a consistent look that they get, and they're just in the zone. It's scoring. The horses are doing good. They're breaking flat across the line, and they're up and they're balanced and ready to rope when they're coming across the line.
And that's what we're talking about on the score. We're not talking about how well does my horse stand flat-footed. We're talking about how well are you sitting in that saddle and your core balance is in place to when you nod your head, you don't get rocked back like this and then get tilted over trying to lead with your horse. You just get to lead with your horse, nice and smooth and solid. Because when you do that, now your horse is flat. When your horse is flat, they leave the corner of the box faster because they're flatter. Anytime a horse comes up in the front end, it takes them longer to get out of the corner of the box. Those horses that stand up on all fours and they've got their weight balanced evenly because you've got your core balance in place, and then they're going to leave that corner so much faster and so much flatter, which allows you to do what? Get ready sooner. Okay? So it starts in the corner of the box as a header scoring that horse. What we do at the arena is we go through that during these clinics. We talk about getting locked in. We talk about getting locked in and learning to nod your head and not wiggle your body, not move your body so your muscle memory becomes consistent leaving the corner of the box. Step number 2, after you score, you have to get squared up to your target. Our sport's no different than any other sport. Football, basketball, baseball, it's hard to go tackle somebody in football unless you square up to them. It's hard to defend, on the court and play defense unless you're squared up to your opponent. You can go on as baseball, catching the ball. I use so many different analogies, but if we don't square up to that target, it's very difficult. I've had several students ask me yesterday, and I talked about Trevor quite a bit because we all live right there together. But you watch somebody like Trevor win the world in the calf roping and the head in the same year. I mean, that's a pretty good feat in itself. That's a pretty good feat in itself because when he's roping calves, he's squared up to his target here. When he's heading, he's squared up to his target over there. He doesn't ride his horse the same, so I get those calf ropers that come in for team roping lessons, and they're splitting the horns, and they're splitting the horns, and they're splitting the horns, because all of their posture is locked out up here. What they're used to doing when they're roping calves, instead of rotating it around just a little bit more and getting opened up to those horns. Okay? I wanted, before we move into the healing side of it, I want to talk to them a little bit about what we said yesterday, the handle. Because on the heel side, this is going to start leading me in. It's not going to be very easy for me to be consistent catching as a healer unless I get a consistent handle, and that is the speed. We're trying to keep the speed of that steer the same. Yes, I've got to ride my horse and I've got to get out there and I've got to get to position. But as a header, you're loading up going to these jackpots, and I'm not talking so much about rodeo runs, I'm talking more about the jackpot style runs. When a header blows up there in ropes and they get them caught, they have to keep their shoulders square to that target as their horse is moving away, so they're stepping up and out. Drew talked about this yesterday. I'm a really big fan of teaching my students that when they rope the dummy and they rip their slack, they come back to their heels on the ground. Because I'm trying to get you back in your saddle so you can ride your horse. Remember how I started out a while ago? I see a lot of students rope and they stay bowed out and they pull their slack, they don't ever come back. Well, once you understand how to do that, then he has a little drill that he talks about keeping his balance in place to keep his horse stood up, and that's actually walking through it. Because most headers have a hard time that once they catch, being able to set it up after the catch. Being able to keep that consistency in that steer. Okay? So yesterday, whenever you did your deal, you walked forward. Tell them what you were working on there.
I mean, obviously, this is a drill that you need to be able to rope the dummy, as Krece and I have been talking about, just right here, standing up, rope it right, and rock it back to your heels, like Krece was saying. So you need to be able to do that before you step into this. But once you kind of feel comfortable with that, I mean, you don't have to be perfect at that, but once you feel comfortable with accomplishing roping the dummy 10, 15, whatever the number of times in a row it is for you, roping it correct and rocking back to your heels, then step back here for a little bit. Come back here, I don't know, what am I, 20, 30 feet from the dummy. Start back here like you're in a jackpot, and you're chasing the steer down, and then come walking at him. And then when you get to your spot, just rope him and don't quit walking. The point of this drill, though, is one, it builds coordination so you can really handle your rope real well. And two is that you do have to stay balanced. You can't be walking off over here and roping. You can't be falling around everywhere. Three, it keeps your shoulders square to the target the entire time. And this is what Krece is talking about, handling steers. Because walking at the target here, if you're walking in your lane, don't walk behind it. Walk in your lane over here. You have to stay square to the target the entire time. And that helps you riding when you rope. If you don't stay square to your target, your horse is gonna duck or cue off of what you're doing. Therefore, the steer is gonna, you control the steer with your saddle horn pretty much. So your saddle horn follows your horse. If your horse ducks, the steer switches. By keeping your shoulders square to the target, your horse stays square. The saddle horn stays here in the center. Your horse is shaped up, the steer just hits out the end of it and you keep his head coming this way. So keeping your shoulders square to the target is more for, it's not just about roping him and catching him easy, it's about handling him easy for your heeler to be able to catch 2 feet back there. So walking by him like that and roping him the correct way will help you in your horsemanship and your core balance.
Okay. It is, if your shoulders rotate, and where we always see it is when you pull your slack and you rip your slack and you go to dally, you roll your shoulders back and around to your saddle horn like this, instead of crossing your arms when you dally, and leaving your shoulders square to your target. Well, when you rotate your shoulders, guess what your horse does? Your horse's shoulders rotate. And when they do, now your horse is in this position while the steer is still straight. I remember Walt Woodard always talked about, he said, the animal that bends their spine last wins. And what he means by that, if the head horse is still straight and the steer's head's bent, head horse is in control. If the head horse is bent and the steer is still straight, the steer's in control. That's where we start running into hot problems, back problems, stifle problems, stuff like that. Because now we're putting that horse in the weakest state that they can be in. That saddle horn is over the top of their withers, they're getting pulled on. So now they're getting pulled on like this. If you'll keep your horse on their rear end, and that's why we need to learn to sit down, to ride our horse forward. When you're out there warming your horses up, how many of you stand up to warm up? You sit down, drive your horse forward when you're up. Okay? We rotate, we open up, we stretch basically. We start rotating our body stretch, try to warm ourselves up, overemphasize those fundamentals that we need to go work on. So it's the exact same deal right there. I've seen a lot of horses, a lot of good head horses, that quit working because they got body sore just by the way they were roped. Just by the way they were roped. Okay? Now, let me ask this. Does anybody have any questions up to this point before we start tying everything to the heel? Everybody good? We're doing that good of a job covering it all. Now, yes, sir. Right. What he asked is, what direction do you break your horse as a header? I like to, at the clinics, I'll take a sawhorse and I'll set it up in the box. And I like to cut up with my students about it because those who have never broke to the middle left of the box coming out, they kind of look at that sawhorse and they ride in there and they're like, their horse is looking at it, and I look at them and say, don't worry about it, they only jump it one time, after that you're good to go.
Just stay on.
Yeah, just stay on. But no, what we're doing is we're walling off the middle right of the front of the box. That way those horses learn to break in their lane. If you know that steer's going to step to you a little bit, you can still break to that same spot. You may want to break down that left wall a little bit more if you know he's going to come at you pretty hard. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this back into another way of answering the question. More of the jackpot style. If that steer's going to step into you right there, what I see so many students do is they broke, or they run up on that steer and he steps into them, so they do that with their hand, right? We try to move that horse's head and shoulders over, but then that leaves their body in this position. When all we have to do is this. If that steer starts stepping into me and I'll shift my body weight to my left stirrup a little bit, then my whole entire horse's body moves over. Versus just his shoulders. Because when I move his head and his shoulders, where does it leave his rear end? It leaves it back over here towards the steer, and now he's already in a weak state. Now, does that mean I can't move my left hand? No, I just need to move my body, then I can kind of help it a little bit more off my right leg. So, great question. Same deal on the steer that you know is going to run pretty hard and to the right. If that heater doesn't jump out there and get the haze, you know you've got to go running down on it. So you really got to open up. You're going to still stay in your lane, but hopefully when those steers come out and run to the right there, that means your heater's probably going to be behind the driver. So they're going to move forward, but you know you're going to have more of that shot. That kind of goes back to the shot. How many of you have had that problem when you're roping, the steer gets on the right wall and you hit the fence with the tip of your rope? Or you hit the beams, or you hit the light pole, right? And here's what you need to know. Basically, your position, I'm going to set Drew up in this position so everybody understands. But right here, he's not in position to catch the steer if he's on the right wall. I'm the wall. So he's got to move his horse up and out a little higher to where now his angle, the tip of his rope is coming down like this. He only needs 3/8 of an inch, right? To catch. He only needs 3/8 of an inch to catch that steer on the right fence. So you've just got to move your horse up and out to where your angle is going down like that. And you know, and if it's a banner or something like that, and that steer's actually dragging that horn down that banner, you can still get it over because that banner will move. Okay? So that's how you treat that. Does everybody understand? Does that address some of the problems that we've been having? But dude, take something. I'm big on arena aids. I will. I'll use that sawhorse to really get my headers thinking about staying in their lane. Especially if their horse likes to break the front of the pin, because they'll drag that right foot across that sawhorse one time, or that horse will hit it with a back leg. And that's all it takes is that horse to hit that sawhorse one time, and then they move over and they know that they can't go over there. So doing little things like that. Okay? All right, gang. Great question. Move into the hillside of it. I am a huge fan of pushing and talking about working a little harder, going down the arena as a heater, so you don't have to work near as hard going across the arena. And what I mean by that is, just like we talked about the heading side of it. As a header, his first job is to score. As a heater, my first job is to haze. So and that doesn't mean that I jump out on top of the steer right out of the box, to where I'm in this position here. It just means the first 10, 15 foot out of the box, that steer recognizes me before he recognizes the header. Because the header is a hazer as well. Right? We're trying to straighten this steer out and keep it straight. So my first job is to get out and establish my haze. I like to push and talk about making sure that we're 10 foot out, 10 to 15 foot out. I want to be out here in my lane. Most boxes are 12 foot wide. So, you know, anywhere from 9 to 15 foot out, if I've got a horse that's really quick and uses his rear end really well through the corner, I like to talk about moving out a little bit more, 15 foot. But what I want to do is I want to get out here and establish my haze to where I'm in position here. Now, I'm going to tie this into timing for you, okay? I'm going to tie this into timing because we have heard it for so many years. That your tip's got to be down and the steer's legs are back, all right? That's 110% true. I'm going to simplify it for you right now. The most natural thing you do is swing your tip down when your horse comes down in stride. The most natural thing you'll do. And it's my beginner students who taught me that. I sit there and I watch somebody who has not rode a horse and who has not swung the rope, and within 15 minutes of being on their horse and swinging their rope, they get in a rhythm. It's like being in a rocking chair. So when the horse comes down in stride and the front left leg hits the ground, the tip comes down and matches it. Okay? And people say, well, what does that have to do with the hop of the steer? If I match the speed of my horse to the speed of the steer, guess what's always back? Okay? Guess what's always back? It's the legs. So that's why I made that comment a second ago. If I work a little harder getting out here and getting to position, going down the arena, then I've already matched the speed of my horse and the speed of the steer. That's why we talked about long ago. That's why it's so important for that header to make sure that they keep the speed of that steer consistent through that handle. If they don't ride their horse and they don't have that horse in their hand and he's out of control, then the speed of the steer is going to change right there. Guess what I just lost? I lost my timing. Okay? I've lost my timing. So if I'll get out here and I'll get established, and I'm also going to break this down a little bit more. How many of you hitters sometimes run by the corner when you get up here this high? You don't have that confidence. You get up a little bit higher, and you're sitting where you're supposed to see, or sitting where you're supposed to be, and then all of a sudden, the steer turns and you step by the corner. And here's where that comes from. 9 times out of 10, when you get up here, you're watching what the header's doing instead of watching what you're supposed to be catching. So where you look, and that's what they say in Horsemanship 101, where you look is where your horse goes. If I'll get up here and I'll get myself established and ready, and then I zero in on my target, I can see whether or not that header's rope came by out of my peripheral. I just need to lock in on my end of it, because I know something's getting ready to happen, and then I stay with the hip of the steer. And I get that question a lot. How do you rope steers that your headers don't handle very well? I said the same way you do on steers that handle well. And that is, stay with the hip of the steer. Your job is to rope the back end of the steer, not the front end. So to simplify it, you need to watch what you're supposed to be catching. And I'm not necessarily watching the legs going down the arena. I'm watching the rear end, the whole entire back end of that steer, because I can see that. I can't keep up with those legs that fast. Okay? As you come through your corner, my sights move from the hip of the steer down to that spot. I'm going to finish my delivery where my spot is, okay, my target is, which is that hop. Does that make sense? Now, again, come through the corner. My invitation as a hitter is when I'm watching that steer's, his body is about halfway turned. So in other words, the steer's body is bent to where now I can come out of my lane because I'm going to frame it. As that steer frames, I'm going to frame, but I'm still in my lane. As the steer frames, I'm going to frame. But I've got to stay around. We talked about this yesterday. These steers that they're roping here at the NFR this year, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, aren't they? Some of those hitters got trapped the first night on the inside of them. They couldn't get around them enough. I mean, you watch that happen. So last night, we're starting to watch a lot of these hitters. I mean, when that rope's going by, they're still driving that horse down the pin to get around. So when they square up, it's basically... It's coming around that corner to where they're not stuck here and they're taking that extra stride to where they're coming around here. We talked about Dakota Kurtenschlager yesterday and how Dakota will step up and around those steers almost like he's creating his own corner.
Yeah, talented.
Yes, very talented. Where it's a blind shot. He steps up and around that head almost to start that steer that direction before the header even takes him that direction. Just so he's softening that corner for that delivery and keeping that horse together right there. So that's where it's at, but he also knows where that target's at. Okay? Now I'm going to go into a little groundwork. Does anybody have any questions on what I just talked to you about timing? Because, again, the rope ride sled, I use this sled for several different reasons. I put the bones on this sled, and I use stationary horns at my clinics. Because once you catch one horn on that, guess what you still have to do? You still have to ride your horse. You have to stay square and you have to ride your horse. And all it takes is for you to jerk that sled over one time and break one horn, and you have fixed your problem for life. You will never, ever quit riding your horse after that. It's amazing. It's amazing. So I rope sleds with stationary horns because you have to continue to ride your horse after you catch. The ones that collapse, the rope comes off, that self-accomplishment, it's understandable. If you want to turn it into a game to where those horns collapse and you try to keep your rope as tight as you can without it coming off, now you're riding your horse. Okay? Now you're riding your horse. The legs. I'd say 80% of what I do there, I don't need the legs moving. Because I watch so many heelers come around the corner and they get to position and then they go to thinking about what? The hop. And when they start thinking about the hop, guess what else they do? They quit riding their horse. And when they quit riding their horse, they get bowed out over their horse, and that's when we end up with this muscle memory. You'll never hear me say you can't lean. What you're going to hear me say is you can't lean before you rope. You can't get bowed out and then try to deliver your rope. If you want to deliver your rope and lean to follow it, then the chin will start to come back and you'll bend your knee. but I'm trying to stay in my saddle to get that horse into that big stop. Okay? I'm trying to get my horse into using his rear end to stop, and when they drag their rear end to stop, then it softens my delivery and helps me finish my tip. Okay? So, the drill that I use on the ground is when I get into position, it's the same deal. I'm trying to accomplish this position with the left leg of the steer, even with my right leg in the saddle. Left leg forward, you can square up. Right leg forward, you still got to square up. Just don't rotate over here to where you get stuck doing that, because that's where we create those bad habits of training our muscles to bow out. So what I really want to practice right here is, one, I like to swing my tip behind the legs on my groundwork. For this reason, if I'm swinging over the back of this dummy on my groundwork, this becomes muscle memory. Then I get in the saddle, guess where my tip's at? It's actually about that high over the steer's back. And that's where you see a lot of heaters come through the corner, and they're actually in position and they're in time, they just can't let go of the rope because their tip's too high. So they have to take that extra swing, 2 swings to pull it down. So if I'll teach myself to get my muscle memory in place to where my tip is down, behind the legs on my groundwork, then all I have to do is go into a delivery. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to use the tip of the rope to hit that target. That puts the bottom strand out. So when we deliver, our delivery is actually shaking hands with the right leg. That's how it comes out of our hand, because we've got to stand our rope up. Okay? If my hand turns over, I'm pushing my bottom strand forward, almost like we're roping steer that's shuffling or dragging. This carpet is super, super slick with these ropes. But I'll show you what your rope does whenever your hand rolls in your delivery. See it shoot forward, that bottom strand kept traveling forward. Now look at the difference whenever I shake hands with the right leg. My bottom strand stayed down. That's the delivery. All the pictures we see look like what? Everybody's hands turned over. That's after the catch. I'm also going to talk to you about that right fast. What I did right there is I kept my core balance in place. Just as we talked about on the head and side, I kept my core balance in place instead of doing this right here. I have no core balance in place. And just by rocking forward to do that in my delivery, guess what I'm going to do in the saddle? I'm going to do the exact same thing. And that's where those hill horses peg you off. You get ready to go into the delivery, they know what's getting ready to happen because you took that big swing right there, or you shortened your swing down, and as soon as your chin moves, that horse goes. And now they're dictating your delivery. They're not allowing you to rope, they're making you rope. Agreed? Am I hitting anything on the hillside that... But again, keeping it simple. That's how we started out, right? We started out keeping it simple. Practice solid, fundamental groundwork, and don't make it about how fast you want to do. Make it about control. I will stand here and do this drill so long to where I understand that I've got to use the tip of my rope to catch. Okay? I sped that one up right there. So what I've got to do is I've got to slow it down, open it up, and let the rope do the work. As the rope does the work, I let it come through. Now I can release. Okay? One thing leads to the next. You walk up and rope these dummies on the ground, and you see so many people do this right here, and they go. They rope it, they pull it back, they step back in, they swing it down there, pick their slack up, and then they've got this in their mind that they're catching. You are catching the dummy. But as soon as they get on their horse, what is the muscle memory that they actually worked on out there? Picking their slack up. So when they get on their horse and that horse is trying to go into a stop, they're already doing what? Picking their slack up. That means they work more on picking the slack up than they did the catch. And now they've got it out of order. So on my groundwork, I don't even work on my slack. If I do pick my slack is picked up well after I study my loop. I study my loop, I look at it, my hand's in place, my balance is in place. If I want to pick my slack up, I pick my slack up, can keep my core balance in place.
Yeah, groundwork's all about muscle memory. It's all about creating your core balance, your core posture where you can ride and row. It's also about developing feel, but it's more about if you can slow yourself down, as what he's talking about, so let your loop kind of develop.
That's correct.
Let your loop develop, see it, then rotate over, which is whenever that is, I don't know if everybody knows. Rotate over your slack, and then pull back over your loop. So let it develop, then pull your slack. It's all about slowing down and developing muscle memory, so that when you go try to win and be fast, all you're doing is reacting.
That's right. That's what you're creating. You're creating that muscle memory, you're putting the right fundamentals in place, and you're putting them in order. Because most people don't understand when they go to the practice pen, they're just excited to go practice. Get off work that day, you get your buddies come over, you're going to saddle horses, strap steers, turn lights on, and now you're excited that you get to go rope. And when you go out there, you just go through the motions again, instead of working on something to get better. Now, is there anything wrong with just going and roping? Absolutely not. That's why you do it. You like it. You love it. You enjoy it. But if you want to go work on something, you have to pinpoint that, and that's what we're creating right here and what we're talking about, is putting the muscle memory into place. And that's where you have to break your runs down. If you ever get a chance to videotape your run, videotape your first run or two, and study that. Then you'll have a pretty good idea of what you need to watch. But we take those runs at those clinics, and I've got a video. Thank you. I've got a video that's 6, 7 years old. Joy Levy's back there at the Mex booth, and I talk to him about it all the time. And I say I use that run at every one of my clinics. Every one of my clinics. Brandon Adams, the run right before it. I use those runs because it breaks it down. And I don't watch them in live speed, I watch them in slow motion. And most of the time I'm talking to my hitters about their left hand and their left foot and where their balance is at. The delivery is going to happen. Every single run of that, I'm showing all of my hitters in those clinics how the tip is down over here at 10 o'clock when that horse's left front leg is down. And the steer's over there. And as it comes through the corner, the tip shifts from over here to where now it's just leveled over that steer's back. Your horse moves under your swing, you've got to level it off, but the timing is already there. And I'm showing them, look at where the heater's at in that delivery. That heater is here, they're balanced. Now, the pictures that we see, what does it look like? They're out of the saddle. They're out of the saddle. Why are they out of the saddle? Yeah, the horse is stopping. When that horse's rear end drops right there, it lifts you up out of your saddle. But you're watching every one of those guys, their chin's coming back to get back here as fast as they can to keep that balance in place for that dally. And the dally's simple. The dally's simple when you're where you're supposed to be. When you're bowed out over your horse, we're going to burn some hands. Okay? All right, before I wrap this up, the 3 most common mistakes I see made. Most common mistakes I see made for my hitters is they'll step up into position, and when they get ready to rope, they'll hit a front leg. And when they hit a front leg, what does that mean? You're letting go too soon. You're coming out of your delivery, or you're going into your delivery, and you're letting go too soon. So I just want to share this with you so you understand. If this is happening to you, you know what you need to work on. Number 2, I see this a bunch. I see that rope go through, and it rolls over. We already talked about that. That bottom strand's rolling over, isn't it? And then number 3, and I've never understood why, but I see this so much, especially with the ropers that tie on. They come in and they swing it in, and they don't let go of their slack. They don't let go of their slack. And what doesn't make sense to me on it is why are you holding on to your slack when you're already down? You're tied off. But that's what happens. It shoots your loop all the way through and makes your loop small. So if you are tied on, you have to let go of that slack strand with your loop strand so your bottom strand sets. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? I know I'm about out of time. John was waving at me.
Okay, be careful.
Head and healing. Are you awake yet? All right. More coffee. Late night. Well, before I wrap up, Drew, best of luck tonight. Hope you go get them again. It is. If you keep winning, you keep showing up.
Seems to be good luck for me.
You bet. You bet.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you give one more hand for NRS Clinician Krece right here and last night's round winner, Drew Horner.